even about presence and attention, awareness. And yesterday we spoke about why the mind wanders. So understanding more the science behind it, what the brain does. And today we are going to explore that if attention is shaping our life, then who's deciding where attention is going? So, how can we become more empowered to get our attention back? Now, we could think that my attention goes wherever it goes, but then we also know that it's one of the most valuable resources that we possess, so we can learn to direct it intentionally. And yeah, and just with that introduction, I welcome you all to Mighty Champions Daily Life. We've been doing these live sessions every day for almost 2 months now. And we have various guest speakers, experts coming and speaking on the foundations of good mental health, well-being, good living, and how we can sustain joy and happiness in our lives. So that's with that intention, we've been coming every day and speaking and sharing, practices, practical tools. And this week, as I said, we've been focusing on attention and how that, wherever we focus our attention on becomes our life. So I would like to begin with, a question that say, if somebody was following you for a week, you know, and watching what you were paying attention to, what would they conclude matters most to you? Now, we could say some things are important, but that's not the question. The question is, what is actually receiving your attention? Just to reflect on. So would it be, say, your family, your work, your phone, your worries? Would it be your health, something about other people? What would they conclude is getting most of your attention? Now, we could say that, say for instance, we could say that my child is my priority or my work is my priority. Yet, how often are we half listening, say, or we could say health is important, while our attention could be, spending hours on work or on something else. And we could say peace is most important to me, yet our minds could be rehearsing, say arguments that happened months ago, years ago. So, so we could think that this is what I want to focus on. This is what I want my attention most to be, or this is what is most important to be for me in my life. Yet our attention could be elsewhere. So again, how can we get that attention back? And also realizing that what is most important for me might not be getting most of my attention. And these are two different things. So how can we come in congruence? How can we align ourselves to what we want and what we think should be taking most of our time or most of our attention? So yeah, so as we do, just a short grounding practice where, if you could just sit comfortably and close the eyes. Then as you sit with your eyes closed, Notice how your attention naturally is jumping. It could be catching sounds, it could be focusing on some itch, maybe a thought, a memory, a plan. Simply observe, how your attention is jumping. And then choose any one thing. Maybe choose the breath or choose sounds, choose the sensations you're feeling on your skin. And when the mind begins to wander, simply choose again and bring it back. And repeating that, bringing your attention back to whatever it is you choose to focus on today. That's the entire practice. And as we spoke yesterday as well, the entire practice is to keep bringing the mind back. Where else to go, nothing to do. We can just be here. And with that, bringing our awareness back to the space you're in, back to your body. Inviting a little stretch and then slowly opening your eyes. Now we are talking about attention and how important that is. Now, we know that we can say earn money again, but once we lose time, we cannot win back time. And attention is where, our lives are actually lived. So, what we practiced yesterday as well, if you were aware of what received most of your attention yesterday, because we could be spending an hour, say, with someone and be mentally somewhere else. So, life, how do we measure life then? We could be spending whatever years we do here, but it's really measured in moments that we actually experience, and that becomes memory, that becomes our life. Now, we also know that at this time where, the phone is such a menace in a way because it keeps taking away our time, it takes so much of our attention. Now, if we look at businesses today and how businesses have changed, in a way, they're no longer competing for customers, but for our attention. So everyone's asking, how long we can keep your attention. And I hear this a lot from parents when parents are worried that their kids are spending too much time on the phone. And when I talk to kids, they say that their parents are spending too much time on the phone, and the mom is always on the phone, and the dad is always on calls. So, um, grandparents are on the phone, and at dinner tables Sometimes the site is everyone's on their phone. Now, what is the phone doing? It's just grabbing our attention. And we don't even feel great about it, because in some ways it keeps us distracted. It takes away also our mental energy. So people who spent hours scrolling, or who spent hours binge watching something. There are also now second screen shows where you could be running a show on your television and also be on your phone at the same time. So uh, um, and these shows are being designed to be like that, where they don't take too much of your attention, so you can have them playing in the background almost while you are scrolling on your phone. So it's it's sad, right? Because we don't end up feeling great when we lose time to the phone, or when we find ourselves scrolling mindlessly, endlessly. And it's a way for us to sometimes numb ourselves. It's a way for us to kill time. Maybe when we are by ourselves, it's a way to sometimes kill loneliness. Online shopping is something that we could be spending hours on just scrolling, and we could think that in some ways it's keeping us away from whatever it is that we are escaping from. But in reality, it can't make us do that, because whatever it is that we are using the phone to escape from, it will at some point come back to us, and we wouldn't have learned the ways to deal with reality. Now, that being said, if we think about attention, and if we think about what attention does, we could think of it as, say, a flashlight. So when we shine our attention somewhere, that thing becomes bright and everything else sort of fades into the background. So again, it's what we focus on. If that flashlight is staying on problems, everything, the whole world feels full of problems. If I'm shining my flashlight, on, say, comparison with others, it keeps making me feel inadequate. If I choose to see the nice things in life, then, those nice things become easier to notice. So it's essentially whatever we are focusing on that is highlighted to us. And we also spoke about, this the system in the brain, the reticular activating system, or the RAS. I think we spoke about it last week when you were talking about gratitude and positive psychology, that the brain is receiving, every second, it's receiving millions of bits of information. And we are taking in lots of this information through our senses. So, with so much information available to us every second, the brain obviously cannot process everything. And so it starts filtering. So, this system of the brain, the RAS, it asks, what is important to you? And when it finds, or if it has detected what is important to us, it highlights the information that matches. So say, on your mind, you want to buy a new car. Now suddenly you look around you and you're seeing that car everywhere. You learn a new word and suddenly, you're hearing it everywhere. It's also called selective perception. Now the world hasn't changed. Our attention has changed, right? So then what happens if the brain has been trained to look for problems? If the brain has been trained to, say, look for criticism, or if the brain is hyper attuned, hyper vigilant around, say, other people's moods, conflict, it's going to find that. And it's going to find that because that's the filter that the brain is using to detect everything that's important to it. And which is why, as we spoke last week as well, things like gratitude, appreciation, mindfulness become so important as a practice. Again, we are not denying reality, but we are consciously training the brain to notice what we want it to notice. I'll just, repeat that once more, that the brain has a system. That system in the brain, it first finds out what is important to me. Now, whatever at that time is important to me, or whatever I have trained my brain to feel important to me, it starts filtering out for that information. So, whenever it detects that information anywhere, it zooms that in for me, and my attention goes there. So, if I have been training my brain to look for, say, conflict around me, it's going to keep sensing that and zooming that in for me so that my attention is always around that. Which is why sometimes negative news can, make us feel so anxious, or make us feel like the whole world is collapsing, everything is bad. And the reverse is also true, which is that if we train our brain to look for the positive things, to look for what's working for me in my life, to look for the good things that people do and say, then this filter will now start looking for that and give me more of that information. And therefore, my baseline feeling of wellness, of joy will increase. And which is why training the brain for what it's focusing on is really important. And also, we can train the brain. The brain follows commands, even if until now we've been, the brain has been working in a particular way. We can change today, and we can start teaching the brain a new reality. Another point about attention is something to do with multitasking. Now, a lot of people could say I am good at multitasking. However, what science says is that if we are doing a complex task, the brain is not truly multitasking. Yeah, it's rapidly switching. So we could be doing one thing, switching attention, doing the other thing, coming back, doing that thing again. But every switch has a cost. So attention becomes fragmented, memory decreases, stress increases, our performance declines. So we could think again that, I can say, be on my phone while watching television, only to realize that actually we are doing neither because our attention has become divided. We really don't know what happened in that scene, and we really didn't know what the person was saying on that reel. So, divided attention, in a way, creates divided living. We are not doing either of those things really well. And yeah, I mean, you could think about it from your experience as well, that how often it is true that we could be doing something while doing something else, only to realize that someday we had zoned out, and we could be lost, and we might have to bring ourselves back to perhaps one thing. Um, okay. Anything else? Yeah. So attention again is, as I said, it's something we can train. So every time we interrupt ourselves, the brain becomes better at interruption. Every time we sustain focus, the brain becomes better at focus. This is just simple neuroplasticity. It's it's almost like, attention as well is a muscle. So we can train it to do either of those things. We could train it to be distracted. We can also train it to be focused. And which is why, say, a mindfulness practice or a breathing practice, a yoga practice, anything, a Tai Chi practice, where, or running as well, because when we are running, sometimes the brain is so focused on that activity. So when we train ourselves our brains to stay with one task, whatever that task is, mandala painting, um, the brain becomes more and more focused as an ability, as a trait. So we can train the brain to have more focus. Um, okay. So we'll just do a small practice to sort of, integrate this, and we'll see how, that feels to us today. Also, before we start, I just like to say that some days the brain is more distracted. Some days the brain is feeling racier. Maybe there's a situation that the brain is sort of trying to deal with or is stressed about. We can practice nonetheless. And we might, on some days, not have as great a practice as on other days, but it's only with consistency that the brain learns. So even if you find yourself, on days struggling, say with focus, you can still sit and be present, say for 5 minutes, if that's the timer you're setting, and just experience the uh, the attempt, the coming together of your mind. So with that, I'd like you to, if it's possible, to sit up straight, alert. So if the back can be straight, and close your eyes, maybe just take a few deep breaths. You can check in with your body, with your breath. And imagine your attention as, say, a warm beam of light. So this beam of light, notice where it naturally moves. Is it moving to thoughts, to sounds, memories, without forcing anything, just noticing where your attention is moving. And now this beam of light, you can guide this light to your body. So shining this light on your body and staying with how your body is feeling today, noticing the body. And if the mind wanders, simply bringing it back. And now guiding this light to the sensations in your hands, staying there. Becoming aware of any sensations in your hands. If the mind wanders, simply guiding it back. Now shining this light on the sounds around you. Staying with that. Becoming aware, staying present with any sounds that are around you. And if the mind wanders, again bringing it back each time. Now guiding this light on your breath. So noticing your breathing, moving all your awareness to your breath. Staying with the breath, and the mind wanders, gently guiding it back to your breath. And noticing that our attention can move intentionally. We have the capacity to choose. And then setting an intention for yourself. What deserves more of my attention than it currently receives? What deserves more of my attention than it currently receives? Then repeating silently to yourself, I choose to pay attention to what truly matters to me. I choose to pay attention to what truly matters to me. I choose to pay attention to what truly matters to me. With that, bringing your awareness to the space that you're in, the surface you are sitting on. Bringing some movement to your body. And then slowly and gently opening your eyes. Thank you for practicing together. If you have any questions, anything you'd like to share, you can do that now. And yeah, like I just request you to practice any short meditation technique, mindfulness, just closing your eyes, focusing on your breath or to sounds, or any activity even where you think that you can really be engaged. So so as we saw, we can strengthen the skill through practice, and all of us, we can become better at noticing the good and keeping our attention on what matters to us. So thank you. Thanks for practicing together. Thanks for being here. We'll be back tomorrow, and we'll go further into this topic. So have a good day and have a good evening wherever you are. And we